Thanksgiving is a week away. Always thankful to have Red Sox Now, courtesy of FanArch, here on YouTube with me, Mike Antonellis, on the socials at the Radio Mike, and your subscriptions just by clicking. It's free. I clicked a subscription for a food product that I just ordered by accident. It defaulted to a subscription, so be careful out there. Here we don't do that. We don't charge. It's free. Like, comment. We're over 180 shows. We're turning into one of the best Red Sox communities. We still have a lot of work to get to. We don't keep score. I love all of the Red Sox guys. I follow them. I watch their stuff. But we have one heck of a community. And we will get to your comments at the end of the show. If you're brand new, the sidebar is what we do. The comments are yours. Last month we did a show where you provided all the comments. And then in the comment section, I was the one that had the comments. It's very confusing. Hey, I first want to give a huge congratulations to a franchise that means a lot to me, the Lowell Spinners. Mark DeShanes, who was the principal owner. Mark pitched in Portland my first year in '05. Terrific baseball guy. He's worked in the amateur, but they have brought baseball back, part of the Major League Partner League. That is outstanding. I called their All-Star game last year, and good for Lowell. And that city deserves it. And we'll see what happens down the road if things get changed more. I think the long-term plan, from what I've heard, is easier said than done. I mean, Major League Baseball's affiliates, they meet, they want to have every affiliate close. It's hard to do because with Boston and New York, with the teams on the East Coast, to have two levels of A-ball that are local, that's hard to do. Full season, where are you going to put them? And it's, it's tight. But it opens a door. If something were to happen down the road, where they started a new league and Lowell got affiliated ball, now with only 4 levels of minor leagues. So congratulations to them. And excited. All right, let's get to it. Alex Cora on his phone being interviewed last night. You guys saw that. And I liked what he said about some of these things because he echoes some of the points that we talked about. Let's get right to it. On Rafaela, a guy that impacts the game, as I've mentioned. I think all of you know that. I don't think I have to. Being a good big league player and surviving in the big leagues, you can't just be a one-trick pony unless you're David Ortiz, right? Ortiz was a plus power hitter. He didn't impact the game defensively, but he's so good. Manny, those guys. Those, that kind of guys don't grow on trees. Schwarber to a point. Rafaela, if he didn't have all these other skills, he probably would not be on the Red Sox. Cora, quote, he has a lot of value, but he's elite in center field. Cora said on Wednesday when asked on if they'd move him to the infield, which is crazy. I don't even know why they would ask him that. I understand the logjam, but it makes no sense to move that kind of outfielder. It's no slight on the other 3 because they could play center. Anthony's actually pretty good out there, but this guy is in a league of his own. And Cora said this. He's a game changer. The one thing we're going to challenge him with again is offensively. He's not a finished product, which I mentioned last week. I still don't think he's had. Now, in the era of the young players, maybe where our mindset's different, but I've tried to reinforce that you have to give it a little more time because a lot of the younger players are now getting the big leagues quicker, and they aren't finished products. Our coaches talk about this all the time. They're doing a lot in AAA at times to get these guys ready, but ultimately, and even if you're in the minor leagues till 25, 26, you still might not be a finished product because you've not seen those looks. I don't close the door or cap somebody on 2 years or even 3. And everyone's different. Like I have felt about Rafaela, he, to me, seems like a guy that gets himself out more than pitchers get him out because he actually can handle off-speed stuff. He's a tough guy to get slider. He'll hit that slider. He can hit the fastball, but he chases. Cora talked about getting him stronger, that they feel he wears down, but a lot of it's on him. So we'll see. This is a big year for him. Year 3. It's like any sport in the NFL. Receivers, year 3. The expectations, I think, sometimes get unrealistic. I don't think Rafaela is a finished product yet after 2 years offensively. And I do think he improved a lot of things last year. The way he chased when we saw him in Portland and Pawtucket was ridiculous. There were questions that he would... That's the reason he didn't even get moved up to AAA. He dominated AA. They were not happy in the approach. They kept him back. And he didn't come up to us until July or August. And he dominated, but he still chased a lot. It was remarkable to see him mash and then strike out so much and chase so much. But it's something that he's done, and they're working on it. But again, like I've talked about, expectations. He's a 7 to 9 hitter to me all the time. If he hits 260 even, which I don't think is crazy. Impacts the game defensively. His arm is elite. Defense is elite. He's an elite base runner. If he hits 250, 255, 18, 20 homers, 70 RBIs, for that position, that's perfect. You could even get a little less, but you want a little more. I think 260, 265. Let's get out of the 240s. And I think that's and they know that. He's not going anywhere. But putting him in the infield is a absurd, ridiculous question. And he can play there, but I understand it. It opens up the spot, but it's just not the right decision. You do not want to lose him in center, and it's unfair to the other guys. He's just so much better than them. And they'll tell you. They've said it. They will be the first to tell you. This is interesting on Cora, talking about Casas. A lot of the things that I try to do, and Lauren Campbell, who wrote this article on Mass Live, Lauren's a dear friend of mine. Lauren went to Framingham State. She worked for the school newspaper. She's writing for Mass Live. She's fantastic, but she is one of my favorite people that I've known. And she wrote a great article on Mass Live. Please read that. Please follow Laura. Her husband, Lauren, her husband works for the Woo Sox in our TV department. This is not lip service. Cora is not this type of guy. This will tell you all you need to know. We got to get him healthy, Cora said on Foul Territory. I think Tristan is a big part of what we're trying to accomplish, but we got to get him healthy. That's not lip service. He wouldn't say that. He would just say we got to get him healthy and then see what. But to add that, we're not giving up on him. We know he hasn't been healthy throughout his career, so that's very important. Well, Breslow was non-committal. I know, and I'm in a group chat with people who tell me this because he's had an injury that takes 12 months to recover. Had the injury in May. Can't commit on a player if you don't know. I mean, he's missed 2 years. So he might not even be healthy for spring training. But Cora saying that tells you all you need to know about how they feel about him. And I don't feel that I can read lip service in political statements, but I don't think Cora would go out of his way to say that. So obviously he's not healthy. So first base is open, as we know, and we'll see what happens. I love that Steve Phillips talked about this because I just went on a huge rant about this. Not really a rant, but kind of pointing out the organizational health Steve Phillips on baseball on MLB Network pretty much said this is the team in baseball right now. Steve Phillips is a former Mets executive. I mean, he's not going to. I don't want to say he doesn't like the Red Sox, but he has no agenda to say this. And its organizational health is one. This is what the Red Sox have built through foundation of younger pieces, through their last baseball operations guy. I thought Chaim Bloom did a great job rectifying, building surplus of a lot of positions. I think the Red Sox have done a great job of that. But he said this, your farm system is really, really good. You have the money to spend. You have a surplus of major league players. You could use an extra outfielder to get something. You could use, so the Red Sox can go in 3 to 4 different ways to make their team better. But like I said to all of you, guys and gals, they can dictate instead of being dictated to. Well, we know you need that. They can still walk away. If the Red Sox didn't, just little things, and it doesn't take much. Doesn't take much. I've harped on the homegrown pitching thing for my 20-something years. Brian Bayo, just him, has changed your franchise because you were able to get whatever you want to call him, a 2 or 3, whatever. You developed him. If you were to pay for something like that or trade for something like that, it would have cost you considerable capital. You found him. You gave him the money up front. He's locked in your rotation. That changes everything. Just having what you saw from Connolly early last year can change everything in two areas. To me, he's a lock to be in the big leagues. Or you don't think he impressed other teams? Just that little small sample in how desperate teams are for arms. You don't think another team, if you look around with some of these rotations, could use him? Absolutely. But you can walk away from anything. Now, we don't believe you guys. You're not going to play all 4 outfielders. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're good. But you possibly can't. Sure we can. And I like that. I that's what I want my organization to be, where we're dictating what we do. Where we have such a surplus of prospects and arms that we have to get rid of guys off the 40-man. Your 40-man is with the pitching, what they've done. But what Phillips said is spot on. And do other teams have that? Yeah, certainly. I don't think the Yankees have a surplus of big league players. You know, Abreu and Duran might not be like Aaron Judge, as we know, but those are still 2 valuable pieces if you were to move one of them to get something. And you did that from how? Because your last president of baseball operations drafted a generational player, right? Roman Anthony changes the dynamics of that whole scenario. Rafaela. Christian Vazquez you traded for Wilyer Abreu and Enmanuel Valdez. Duran you drafted. You stuck with him. I'll give Chaim. Think about this. You Duran lovers I've seen, people who love him now. You didn't like him a few years ago. The Red Sox stuck with him, and I give him credit for that. Cora, Chaim, they pushed him, and what he turned out to be, homegrown player. I look at Abreu as homegrown. So you homegrown all 4 of those guys and put yourself in a position through really great moves. Let's give Chaim tons of credit for all of that. I mean, the Vazquez deal was ridiculous. You traded a backup catcher for a Gold Glove award-winning outfielder. So you put yourself in on all those positions of having surplus of talent to go get you something that you really like. That's what you have to be. The Mets are I think, are similar. I don't know if they have the money anymore. Regardless, I don't really care about the other organizations, but I like where they are right now. The unknown, the having, more than what you can do, and then we're going to have things that we don't even know about, right? There's going to be arms that and position players that we're not even talking about now that will potentially help. All right, we're going to close out Thursday. We'll have one more show tomorrow. Some of you are interested in if I did a live show. It might be on my personal. I'll let you know. At Joe Day FEO-I5W. I didn't know this. YouTube adds extra characters to handles. I didn't realize that. Okay, like your analysis of the Red Sox pitching depth. In my years as a fan, they've developed 7 starters. Think about this. Bayo, Buchholz, Lester, Clemens, Hurst, Boyd, and John Tudor. I mean, that's going... You're right. I mean, that's going way back. But how many, like in this era? They haven't developed many relief arms either. Well, I don't agree with that because they have, and they've let go of a lot of them. And that's a. I mean, I get what you're saying. We just don't see as many homegrown bullpens. But Papelbon, Tazawa, Workman, Barnes, Howe, Crawford, Bob Stanley, Steve Crawford, and Del Carmen. But I think there's some more in there though too. But regardless, they have like 3 to 5 guys at each level have a chance to contribute at some point in the next 4 years. They built the foundation for a really good. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Breslow pitched. But I mean, this is something that they just weren't good at, and I've told some of you this. The one word I do not like hearing is that they don't develop pitching. That is, don't listen to that. Well, look what they did with Tolle and Early. Those guys had pretty good stuff when they drafted them. Okay, you can't, Trey Ball was not a good pitcher. He was a 50-50 position player pitcher, and they took him 7th overall. I had scouts tell me that's going to go. At the time, I had a scout tell me that will be one of the worst. And I feel horrible saying this because I love Trey Ball. He was with the Sea Dogs when I was there, and I actually really liked him. I can remember this story. We got our bus, something screwed up with our bus, and we had to fly home, and we sat in first class together, and we talked for the whole ride. And he talked about a lot of this stuff. So it kills me to say this, but it still was not a good move. You can't just, like, Bayo wasn't just developed better. He had a good repertoire. They've just not been good at that. Well, they haven't drafted high. True, but figure it out. I mean, no one cares. You did draft high the few years you finished in last. But they have not identified good arms. That's their problem. You can't, And listen, I know there's stories of guys. I know what Tolle was throwing like in the mid-'80s. I get all of that. But we're talking over 25, 30 years where consistently not picking the right guys until now. At George White, 5810, not sure why they moved Bernie and Murphy with Matz and Wilson free agents since there appears to be no lefties in the pen. I get the need for catching, and if they weren't going to use Murphy or Bernie, they seem to add some catching depth. We'll need to sign Matz or Wilson. Thanks, Mike, for that. Yeah, George, I'm getting this from a lot of people. I think we're making way too big a deal of these trades, really. Craig Breslow was a left-handed pitcher. He's going to figure this out. I'm not picking on George, but I'm getting tons of people freaking out about that they don't have lefties. It's November 20th. They might already have a deal with Wilson and Matz. And so what? I'm not concerned about Chris Murphy and Brandon Bernardino. No offense to them. They're low leverage relievers. You can easily replace them. And the fact that they have two lefties, I get it right now, in Moran and Chapman on November 20th is not something I'm concerned about. And none of you should be. I saw it all over social media yesterday. It's not a finished product. And so what? Like, you have Chapman, Whitlock, and Slayton. And they are going to recreate with maybe Harrison or maybe Drowan or Sandlin. Or they sign Devin Williams or Helsley and make that super pen. But don't be concerned about this. And also with the trade return. These are guys that you took off your 40-man roster. The other executives know that. You're not going to get like a top 10 prospect or major league talent like off of 20. It's just not going to happen. Right? Those guys were not Hoppy, Guerrero. Bernardino is the most proven out of all of them, but he's 33. I mean, and you got that guy Ward from the Rockies, who is got elite speed, pretty good hitter, but could be just an organizational player. So let's not be so worried about that. I think too many people are way overthinking those moves. You had to add Drowan, Uberstein, and Sandlin. Is there risk? Do we know? No, of course. I'd rather take my chances with those three guys. You essentially traded those three guys off your 40-man to get organizational depth and add those three guys to your 40-man. So it's 3 for 6. I mean, but I'd much rather take my chances with a guy, like David Sandlin, who throws over 100, and Drowan and Uberstein, who are starters. Those are starting pitchers. You can find Chris Murphy and Bernardino. You found Bernardino at 30 years old who had 2 big league innings. I mean, I just, it's okay, everyone. Like they're going to fill. Breslow's not gonna. Did he not show us the importance of lefties? He traded from Matz when you already had plenty of lefties. So there's not an ounce of me that is even remotely worried about that situation or is losing sleep over those losses of those guys. I know you guys like those pitchers, but I think we're stretching calling it a bad move. At lefty0741, good pitching, defense beats good hitting any day. I'll take 2 great and 3 good starters, a sound bullpen, above average defense in exchange for a lesser offense. Yeah, I agree. Team ERA under 4 with a team batting average of 260 will make you a contender every year. Yes, absolutely. Lou Merlone made a great point. My final thought with Toronto's World Series starters. Because somebody said the Red Sox have a lot of no-names. I mean, if I said to you, we're going to roll with Gausman, Chris Bassett, Barrios, Eric Lauer, an aging Max Scherzer, and Shane Bieber, what would you have last offseason, What would a lot of you, and when we get this kid, Yasevich, they didn't have a ton of huge names. In fact, they didn't have a starting pitcher that won more than 11 games. And they were a couple outs away from winning a World Series. Yeah. I know they added Bieber, but Barrios didn't have a great year. Francis had a horrible year. He was a starter. They tried a lot of other guys that didn't work out, but they didn't have terrific starting pitching. They had a pretty good bullpen, I think. But they made it work in the end because they had pretty good organizational depth to trade for Bieber and add Yasevich, who was huge for them in the playoffs. Just think of what that one arm did. And that's why you keep young arms as well. But I thought Toronto's bullpen was pretty good. That kid Little, Varland, who they traded for. I love Hoffman. Dominguez, Yariel Rodriguez, who we saw a lot of in Worcester. He pitched a lot for Buffalo. But you look at a lot of their arms, they had some pretty good season. And, of course, they had a good offense. To your point, that ties in with Lou's point in the last comment. Toronto struck out, I think, the third fewest in Major League Baseball, and they were one of the best defensive teams, and they hit .265 with an ERA of over 4. They weren't the best starting pitching. They weren't the best bullpen. But the difference between them and the Red Sox, they were more like this instead of this. And they played the game the right way. Good stuff today, everyone. Good comments. We'll talk to you Friday, one last time of the week. Red Sox Now, presented by FanArch. I'm Mike. Follow me on social at The Radio Mike. And as always, go Sox.